What's going on, people? My name is Alex Elliott and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be breaking down my updated drum bus and how I approach my drums. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this and have a listen to how this track sounds. So what on earth is that guy doing? Why does his drum sound like that? That's what I hear you saying. But don't worry, I'm going to let you know. Now, the first thing I've got on here is this P11 Abyss. This is like a VCA type compressor. However, it has so much more controls on it. But to break it down simply, I'm essentially doing a 6:1 ratio. I've got my attack set to 125 milliseconds, and there's a reason for that, which I'll explain in a moment. And my release set to 114 milliseconds. Now, the reason why I have my attack set so slow is because this plugin actually has a clipper inside of it, which is really incredible. You can clip the raw signal, or you can clip the output, or you can clip the main. Now, I'm clipping the raw signal going into this plugin just to make sure that nothing is going above the threshold. And then once I've done that, I'm just applying some compression. But have a listen to how this sounds. It sounds so good. There's so many compressors out there, but the reason why I personally use this one is because it just has a way of handling transients that keeps them snappy and keeps them sharp. Essentially, the way it handles dynamics is just to my preference. And also, it has this O2 knob on it, which is just, for lack of a better term, like a morifier. I know that's not a word. Please don't attack me on my grammar. But it just makes things sound like more. Have a listen to this. Then within this same plugin, I'm also doing some saturation. So you've got saturation A, B, or saturation A and B together. And I've got saturation being added to the input of this. Have a listen to how the saturation sounds. I'll play with it so you can get an idea of how it feels. So it's just really giving it just a lot of bite, a bit of character, and it just saves me having to pull up many different plugins. So if you own this, I really implore you to check out the saturation within this, because a lot of people forget that it actually has that inside. And the last thing I'm doing is I actually have this compressor set to 50%, because when it's set to 100%, it's quite an aggressive sound. Have a listen to this. Like I'm losing a little bit of the transients, and whenever you feel like you love the tone of compression but you feel like you're losing transients, quick trick to just solve that problem straight away is to turn it into a parallel compressor of some form, whether that's on vocals or whether that's on drums. So I set it to 50%, and then I just back the output down a little bit just to make sure that I'm gain matching as much as I can. And then I put this Soul on 30%. Now, when this Soul's on 0, it's essentially just like a digital sounding compressor, just pristine quality. But when you have it on 100%, you just get a lot more character and a lot more, I guess, soul, for lack of a better word. But check this out. That feels great to me, so I'm going to keep that around about 30% actually. And then we have the clipper. Now, if I set this to -10 and I set it to clip the main out, then nothing above -10 is going to get through. Check this out. And with this one plugin, listen to how I've managed to make these drums sound. It's nasty. Now, even though this video is sponsored by Pulsar Modular, these techniques and principles can be applied to other plugins. However, in all honesty, after you hear these plugins, I highly doubt you're going to want anything else, because you're just going to go through the same thing as me. Now, moving on to the next plugin. You guys know I've done so many videos on this, so I'm going to keep this short and sweet. If you want to know more details about this plugin, then be sure to check out my other videos, which I'll link at the end, which really go into this plugin in detail. But essentially, I'm using it for saturation and I'm also using it for clipping. I've set the clipping to -9 dB so that nothing on that drum bus is going above -9 dB. And then I'm just using this EQ here, which is sweet, and just boosting it by around about 35% just to give a little bit on the top. But let's first have a listen to how it sounds without the clipper and just the saturation. Now that sounds dope to me, but because I've got such an increase in volume, of course it sounds better. And this is why I have the clipper, because it enables me to be able to match the peak levels, sorry, before and after. But have a listen to how this sounds. But sometimes with this plugin, I do feel that I lose a little bit of the top end, but thankfully Pulsar Modular thought of this, gave us the option of having this sweet EQ, which just brings in a little bit of that high end again. Let's have a listen to how that sounds. Lovely. And then once again, this same O2 that we saw on the compressor, we can also see that same O2 here on this. And I'm going to admit, I actually never noticed that this was actually here before. This is insane, because this is actually probably going to change the game for me, because being able to add this going into this clipper, so I'm not going to get an increase in peak level, but I'm going to get all of that energy being added, could sound pretty nuts. So let's check that out together right now. That sounds absolutely rude. Now, there's one other little thing I do when I just want to take things a little bit further. Now, Pulsar Modular, you guys don't actually make a transient shaper. So the next best thing for me is this excellent transient shaper. I have to give them a shout out. It is really, really dope. And I essentially use this to boost the transients after that stage of compression going into that stage of clipping, because I'm not going to get an increase in peak level, but what I am going to get is, because those transients are being boosted going into the clipper, it's going to react more aggressively to the transient and add a sense of distortion to them, which is ultimately going to make things sound punchier. Check out how it sounds when I engage this one. Boom, so there it is. That is the drum bass that I'm going to be using for the foreseeable future. If I ever update it, you'll be the first to know. But these plugins are absolutely incredible. If you don't have these plugins, once again, you can use a compressor, a saturator, a clipper, and then a maximizer, and then you can use another saturator, and then an EQ, and then a clipper, and then a transient shaper to get this result. Or you could simply just get these 3 plugins and get it done simply. My name is Alex Elliott. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. Other than that, I look forward to seeing you all next time.